and welcome to the Demo Dive, where I live stream myself digging through Steam's demo tag to sort the trash from the treasure. I'm CB, and anyone who tells me that climate change isn't real is cordially invited to bite me. The temperature is going to be in the 90s in England. It should not be this hot in England. They make our houses to hold the heat in because it's not supposed to be this hot in England. Between that and the human-coded day job and political fuckery in this mess of a country that I can't even keep track of anymore, I am not a happy little trash goblin. But there are always positives, and it's all about digging for them. And that is what the Demo Dive is all about. Especially with Xbox's recent announcements suggesting that the AAA part of the industry is currently dying by auto-cannibalism. Thus, we support the indie space. But that doesn't mean we can't hit up something with name recognition. And TTRPGs have been a pretty good harvesting ground for video games for quite some time. Baldur's Gate 3 barely needs a mention, nor do any of its predecessors. There are the Shadowrun Return games, which I really must pick up again, and which are so much easier when all the dice shit is happening on the back end and I don't have to think about it too much. And of course, there are the various forays the industry has made into the world of darkness. Now, I'm a Mage the Ascension fan myself, mostly because I really enjoy putting together the most insane roads. But I have done some sidling into Changeling the Dreaming because I like reminding players that nightmares are dreams too. Seriously, I ran Changeling in a chat and forum RP group, and everyone thought Changeling was all fluffy and cutesy and light. Anyway, the industry, on the other hand, does not entirely agree with me. It tends to go with Vampire the Masquerade. We don't talk about Cyanide Stab at Werewolf the Ascension. We don't talk about Earthblood. No. Anyway, the to be charitable mixed reception that Bloodlines 2 got inspired a few other people to try their hand at games within the franchise. Apparently, White Wolf in its current form is being very generous with the VTM license. The one that actually has a demo so far is Vampire the Masquerade Oath and Ashes by Revive the Spark. This one's not about leaning on celerity so hard it screams either. It's in the visual novel style, so we're looking at something that might actually resemble the politicking and power plays that I'm used to from my vampire experience. Well, to a point, anyway. The one time I actually played Vampire, I played a Clan Giovanni torturer and accountant with a bound wraith named Fruit Bat, but that's an anecdote for another time. We're here for Revive the Spark's take. So, let's have a look and see if this will fan the tiny spark of interest I have in VTM, shall we? Sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin. Okay. And have a look at the options. So it's basically just display, etc. So, not a whole lot to do on the back end with options-wise, so straight to new game we go. Seriously? I get it, but anyway. Prologue. Opéra Garnier, Paris. Present day. There are places in the mortal world that bend toward hierarchy without being told to do so. Buildings that train one into obedience simply by existing. The Opéra Garnier is one of them. You can see it in the way the audience settles down before the lights dim, how voices lower instinctively, how even impatience takes on a rehearsed shape. Velvet and gold do most of the work. The rest is a habit. The performance begins long before the curtain rises, and it never truly ends. Our world survives on that principle. The traditions endure because most kindreds still fear what happens without them. We learn our roles early. We carry them night after night, regardless of what hides beneath the mask. Every city hides secrets worth remembering. Alice keeps track of people, places, and kindred terminology in her journal. You can also revisit gameplay tutorials there at any time. Highlighted text has glossary entry. New journal entry looks there. Okay. Because once enough undead decide the rules no longer apply to them, mortals begin to notice. Most understand this. Etienne d'Aubigny did not. The Camarilla gave him everything he wanted: status, protection, an audience eager to admire him. He accepted it willingly, and played his part flawlessly until the role no longer satisfied him. What do they say about the Camarilla? It's not actually showing me on hover text. Okay. Then he tore the script apart and stepped off the stage in full view of the house, aligning himself with the Anarchs and daring the rest of us to react. Well, fuck you too, buddy. Defiance itself is nothing uncommon. Every century produces a few malcontents convinced rules exist solely to restrain them. What makes Etienne dangerous is that his spectacle is a hair away from being contagious, and others might have already rehearsed the same betrayal in private, waiting only for the courage to perform it in public. That is why I'm here. Capturing him will do more than restore order. It will prove what I have spent decades demonstrating already, that I am fit to bear the title of Archon. Victories like this open doors in our society. Results are the only currency that survives Elysium, particularly when no one can question who earned them. For that reason, this mission should have been mine alone. Justicar Lucind, however, deemed it necessary to assign me a companion. As if Thomas, of all kindred, could add anything but complications. Okay, so Alice Littleton, aspiring Archon to Justicar Lucind. Born 1807, England. Embraced 1840, London. Clan Ventru. With some of these lines, why am I not surprised that she's a Ventru? Generation 10th. Affiliation, Camarilla. They say some are born into greatness, but it's never that simple. Greatness is neither gifted nor stumbled into. It's taken, fang and claw, from the clutches of those who never thought you were worthy. Thomas, with a lot of things crossed out. That's never good with vampires. Rival for unlife. Okay. Born 1805, England. Clan Lesombre. Affiliation, Camarilla. My rival from the very moment we were introduced, and apparently that's all we've got so far. So, hang on. He's technically older than her. We have no idea when the fuck he was embraced, and yeah, okay. Anarchs, also known as the Movement, huh? What are they saying? Originally called the Anarch Revolt, this sect is as old as the revolution against the Camarilla itself. In recent decades, it has seen vast growth as younger kindred find it increasingly difficult to understand why they must follow the laws of elders who care nothing for them, but to throw them in harm's way when needed. All vampires who fall outside the tower's control are considered unbound, and the Anarch movement is a small but visible subsection of the unbound who, rather than hide, have decided to fight back. They fight to claim territory from those who oppressed them, as the ancient hands that held on to it are disappearing due to the beckoning or other outside forces. We don't have any definition for the beckoning, but that's not a term I remember, but then again, like, all things considered, I was never even close. Word on the street is that the Anarchs seek revolution. With more and more elders disappearing and younger, fresher kindred appearing, the Anarch numbers grow. The centuries-long lethargy has worn off as they remember how to fight. Some Anarch domains possess a prince, or, as the Anarchs call them, baron. Other domains are instead controlled by gangs who each have their own turf. It is also possible for Anarchs to have a combination of these roles and groups in one singular domain. Okay, so that's gonna be hilarious. Anyway. He sits beside me now, one arm draped along the velvet balustrade, posture arranged to suggest ease. He doesn't watch the stage. His attention drifts through the audience instead, slow and methodical, hunting for a familiar face among unfamiliar ones. He's already looking for Etienne. Protect the Masquerade. The Masquerade is a sacred rule of kindred society. Every choice you make may preserve it, or bring mortals one step closer to discovering the existence of vampires. Break the Masquerade too many times, and you will face final death. Fair enough. You're staring Alice out with it. Hello? Why did Etienne turn on? You've known him far longer than I have. Why here? Paris is full of bolt holes, and he chooses the most conspicuous one. Thomas lets the question hang between us for a moment. Okay. When he finally speaks, faint amusement threads through his voice alongside mockery and that effortless aristocratic contempt he never bothers to conceal. He's a toreador. They rot without attention. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling. If he wanted an audience, he chose the wrong side of the curtain. It's the Opéra Garnier. Half of Paris comes here to be seen. Etienne naturally chose to turn it into a stage. You don't seriously think he'd risk making himself the spectacle? Not here. Not with this many witnesses. Those who want to be remembered rarely concern themselves with collateral damage. Ruling anything out would be careless. If he's decided this is the end, he'll want it arranged properly. One last performance before the curtain falls. You're giving him a great deal of consideration. Are you sympathizing with him? I'm considering his motivation. Not even remotely. I'm trying to understand what made him decide this was worth the cost. You shouldn't. Lucien sent us here to resolve a problem, not understand it. Nothing you uncover will alter what happens when we find him. I'm not here to change the outcome. And yet something about this mission clearly unsettles you. Don't mistake my composure for unease. Spare me your fake concern, and do not mistake my composure for unease. I'm long past such frailties. How unbearably ventrue of you. He watches me for a moment longer than necessary. His eyes drift down my profile, slow and unapologetic. The jaw held just a little too tight, the tension behind your eyes. Don't confuse observation with concern, Alice. I simply enjoy watching you pretend restraint comes naturally to you. Focus less on my nerves and more on locating our target. Yeah, a friend of mine, and he was right, I think, said Hunter is best played in short bursts, one-shots, or very short campaigns, because a hunter dealing with the supernatural of the WOD, and two ways, arrested or dead. Usually both, very fast. So, Hunter's a good one, but it's not something you can run a long campaign about. Oh, for fuck's sake. AI viewers? On top of everything else, you asshole, you're trying to sell me AI viewers? Oh, wow, there's not enough fuck you in the world! Just another viewership tampering bot. But yeah, no. Mage was always my favorite, both to run and to play. Again, just because I really enjoyed putting together and watching other people put together and helping people put together different routes depending on what their spheres were. I came up with some fucking doozies back in the day, if I do say so myself. My favorite is still right place, right time. It was both the boon and the bane of every storyteller. Basically what it was correspondence, time, entropy, and mind. Because if I wanted to find somebody, I would wander, she was a cultist of ecstasy, but she was with Dissonant Society, so she looked like a virtual adept a lot of the time. She'd run numbers in her head and go for a walk. And through the power of magic, completely coincidental magic, mind you, she would end up in just the right place at just the right time, not only to find the person she wanted to speak to, but find them in a receptive mood. I loved Molly so much. She was hilarious. Of course, then there was Astrid, Vampire Bane. Not in the way anyone would think. No, Rolling Pin was the backup. The actual death was Umbrella. A Slua stabbed it in the eye with an umbrella. Yeah, basically, I had a chimera that had been running around London since the Bloody Sunday riots, caused some particular hilarity during the Blitz, and it traveled through paintings, which was a lot of fun to play around with, I have to admit. And the only way to kill it was, it fed on fear and glamour. So anything glamourful and anything that feared it was going to not do anything. So you had these she knights, valiant and true, stabbing at this thing, doing nothing. This Slua came along for the ride on the mission, and she was more resigned to her death than anything else. And she steps in with an umbrella. Big ass umbrella, a metal spike, long metal spike on the end. Right through the eye. Thump. If it hadn't been her, it would have been a boggin with a rolling pin. Yes. Because we did. We had the she knights, the Slua, and the boggin with the rolling pin. It was great. Like I say, I have such a good time in the World of Darkness. Vampire is a difficult one if you get overwhelmed easily, because there's a lot of threads that are going. The doorbell. Yes, that was another changeling thing. We had the Chime twins. Their human forms were fraternal twins. One was an issue, one was a knocker. Lucian and Lucy Ann Chime. They were played by the two mage co-STs. It was great. But the issue, Lucian, their parents were fairly wealthy because they ran a doorbell company. And that meant Lucian had aversion. Doorbells. Would do anything to avoid ringing a doorbell. But also had the flaw curiosity. So I had these sort of sign-up sheets for dreaming adventure club kind of thing. Going into places in the dreaming for just a dreaming survival course. And stuff happened, as it happens in the dreaming. They got separated, and Lucian found a doorknob on a tree. And there he is going, it's a doorbell. I don't like doorbells. But I need to know what happens if I press the doorbell. So there he is, aversion fighting curiosity. It was great. I mean, I know I'm supposed to be paying attention to the story the devs have, but I have so many, you don't understand. I spent so much time in different spots of the WoD where it was different breeds of subtlety. Vampire is a little too knives in the dark for me sometime. Yes, everybody has things to say. The things to say are good. But yeah, very briefly, before we go back to Vampire, to segue into the mage thing I had that actually involved vampires, because one of our Euthanatos did a stupid, and got involved with one of the vampires. It was sort of a shared world, but we were supposed to not interact too much, but they interacted a lot, and broke they found out what each other was, and that was a bad thing. My Giovanni was actually there when they melted the guy who broke the Masquerade's head. Literally, just head splat. Bye. The Magus, on the other hand, spent most of her time running and hiding. But my a different cultist of ecstasy that time, Astrid, she was small, she was adorable, she was a lot more intelligent than she acted. But she was also kind of a group spokesperson. And that put a target on her back. So what she did was, okay, I don't have forces. I can't set vampires on fire. But I have mind, time, prime. I can make them think that they're on fire. So she did this long-running rote set on a trigger so that if a vampire bit her, the taste of her blood would make them feel like their own blood in their bodies was on fire, and would make the taste of any blood make them feel like their blood was on fire for 3 months. So there's a vampire who can't eat for 3 months without feeling, Roach-Trek adjacent. I didn't trust the vampire ST. He was a bit of shit. The mage ST who walked me through that ritual was really impressed, by the way. Anyway, back to 1800s vampires or something. I don't know. Anyway, I was doing just that until you decided to psychoanalyze a traitor in the middle of an operation. Do us both a favor. Start looking for Etienne before he makes us pay for his mistakes. He moves away before I can decide whether to respond. His attention shifts back to the audience as though I've already been filed away, assessed and dismissed. Whatever expression he wore for me is gone. In its place, focus and purpose. If anyone were watching us, and I doubt they are, they would see nothing out of place. 2 figures in shadow, another private conversation lost to the dark in the orchestra. But the anger sits tight in my chest, and I'm not sure who it's meant for. Him for taking control of the exchange so effortlessly, or myself for letting him. I was trained better than this. Either way, it doesn't matter. If nothing interferes, I will find Etienne before Thomas does. Mid-50s body, dark hair silvering at the temples, a suit too well cut, and a bow tie too red for a man who wants to disappear. He wouldn't either, if not for the fan he never parts with. Black lacquer, crimson roses woven into the silk. Oh, dear gods. I remember it more clearly than his face. I raise the opera glasses and let habit take over. The angle gives me a clear view of the stalls and most of the lower balconies. There's enough blind spots to complicate things, and the longer it takes, the more dangerous it becomes. Where should I begin? I won't have the time to check everything before the show ends, so I have to choose carefully. Stage, search the audience below, upper balconies, opposite boxes. I'll have a look at the opposite boxes. From this angle, the mortals in the opposite boxes resolve into framed figures, gilded, partly obscured, posed exactly as they wish to be seen. I let my gaze move from one box to the next, and I got you, Etienne, and you're running out of time. He sits draped in shadow with the Loge du Fantôme d'Opéra, the one seat in the house that mortals whisper about, swearing that any who sits there risks calling down misfortune on themselves. He keeps to the habits of his clan, a box drenched in legend, ringed with whispered curses. Even in disgrace, a Toreador never abandons the comfort of theatrics. There's another man beside him, shifting restlessly. Etienne leans towards him, murmuring something behind the elegant flare of his fan, letting silk and lacquer mask his words. When the man steps aside, Etienne seems perfectly at ease, eyes on the stage as if nothing else in the world exists. But then I see it. The faint, deliberate tap of his finger against the fan's edge. Once, twice, a third time. A signal? The old code comes back to me at once. I wish to speak with you. There. Thomas follows my voice lazily, one brow arching. Well, that's bold. The man's got nerve, sitting in the Phantom's box as if he owns the place. Not the box, the fan. He squints, unimpressed. What about it? Hideous taste? He's tapping it, deliberately. I watch the motion again, the same precise rhythm, the same measured touch. It means I wish to speak with you. He's communicating. Someone's there with him. Thomas chuckles softly, leaning back, pleased with his own skepticism. You give him too much credit. Not every gesture is a conspiracy. Etienne's hand moves again. Another gesture, sharper this time. Follow me. He's warning someone above. I'm on my feet before the words fully form. The motion draws Thomas upright with annoyance, his irritation snapping through the air like static as I step forward and brace a hand on the gilded railing. I scan the balconies above, row after row, until my gaze catches a shimmer of pink silk vanishing behind a heavy curtain. Gone before I can even fully confirm their presence. There was nothing in Lucine's report about additional operatives, which means we have to go. If we lose control right now, we lose control of everything that follows. You know, you sound so much like Lucine right now. So I'm the only one thinking ahead. Move! Thomas gives me a look that teeters between concern and exasperation. Curtain or not, we are leaving. Now. Pursue at 10. We leave the box immediately. Ooh. Auditorium update, okay. Locations. The Opera House was a masterpiece. Neo-Baroque grandeur in deep reds and golds, the painted dome overhead, the chandelier that cast a soft glow, the way the whole place embraced one in its beauty. I'd love to sit here and savor it all, together with the rising strains of the tale of temptation and dark bargains. One night, perhaps, I'll return for the art alone. But that evening there was no time for admiration. Thomas and I were there to catch Etienne, and the beauty of the opera was just a veil over the tension. I felt the way the halls seemed to still alongside us, waiting for the curtain on our true performance to rise. I mean, to be fair, this has got to be a thing. Anything that can tear a toreador away from a performance, or indeed anything particularly pretty that's within their sphere of interest, is quite the thing, if I remember my toreadors, and I'm pretty sure I do. Head for the stairs. The door shuts behind us with a final thud, sealing the last chords of the orchestra into darkness. I take the lead. Thomas follows, his shoes tapping a rhythm I've endured longer than I'd care to admit. Soon the passage widens and the grand escalier opens before us. Its gilded balustrades curl upward like the spine of some slumbering beast, chandeliers blazing high above us, ready to seize the shape of anyone foolish enough to step into their light. There's no corner here deep enough to hide in. Whoever built this hall understood that visibility is its own form of discipline. That beauty, weaponized properly, can be the most merciless interrogator of all. Even with the opera still in full swing beyond the doors, the foyer is far from empty. Staff lean along the walls, guests chat in low voices, and the guards stand bored at the entrance. Too many eyes we don't need. Then there's Etienne, slipping right through them, barely giving a glance to anyone around him. Either he is a world-class actor, or he truly hasn't realized we're on his tail. He takes the opposite staircase and turns towards a side hallway marked as staff only. I quicken my pace, but something, a shimmer of pink silk, the same shade as earlier, flashes in my periphery. The thin shawl moves with its bearer, a woman with olive skin that seems to hold its own soft glow, her dark glossy hair pulled back, but for a few strands framing her face. Poised and careful in her steps, her gaze locked unbroken on Etienne, fixed on him with a focus too intent to be dismissed as coincidence. She is the one he was speaking to. Every signal of that fan was meant for her. I would stake my hand on it. There, shall we? Now that we know exactly where our slippery friend is headed. Something's off. Have you noticed her? Something's off. You have to be more specific. There's no shortage of hers in this place. My hand comes up. The woman in a pink scarf. I saw that same shimmer when we were still in the box. Her eyes haven't left Etienne since we stepped out of the corridor. My intuition flagged her immediately. Thomas follows her path with genuine curiosity, and in that moment I almost believe he'll take me seriously. But that moment breaks. How fortunate we have such oracular gifts at hand. Mock all you like, my instincts are clear on this. I wish to interrogate her. Many things work until the night they don't. No one follows a man through an opera house with that kind of precision. I know I'm right. Thomas slowly steps into my line of sight, granting me the privilege of witnessing his disbelief. And if you're wrong, Alice, will you write an apology to the Justicar on your finest parchment, or blame the rest of us for not sharing your insight? There goes the target. There goes the distraction. He points towards Etienne's vanishing path, and then towards the woman ascending the stairs. Surely your clan of all clans knows the difference. So maybe, just this once, trust the organ in your skull, not whatever your arrogance insists on calling intuition. He takes a single step backward, granting me the illusion of space. Go on then, do whatever you like. After all, you're a capable woman, aren't you? Eager to gamble our success on a hunch? But I'm not sticking around to answer for failures. I'm going after Etienne. And with that, he turns his back, and I am left standing in the middle of the foyer, suspended between two possibilities pulling at me with equal force. To my left, the woman in pink slips up the staircase towards the upper foyer, her figure thinning into the glow of the chandeliers until she becomes nothing more than a shard of color drifting through shadow, a lure set for me alone. To my right, Etienne's silhouette dissolves into the bowels of the opera house, swallowed by the service corridor like a secret eager to bury itself deeper, running towards consequences he has already accepted. Instinct on one side, duty on the other. And in between, the knife edge of my own judgment. I'll interrogate the woman. Something else moves inside me, that deep pull in the gut. The instinct I've learned to trust over reason, and certainly over Thomas's polished little lectures. My decision forms before I even feel myself move. For now, instinct wins. I follow the woman. She doesn't sense me until I'm almost upon her, close enough to touch. And when she finally turns, she starts so sharply it seems to cut through the air between us, her breath catching halfway in her throat. For a moment, she stands perfectly still, pinned in place by her own fear. Then her posture tightens, shoulders drawing in, eyes widening with the brittle clarity of a creature that has just realized escape may no longer be an option. What do you want? The words tremble more than her body does. Her hand hovers inches above the railing, fingers curled as if she might fling herself over rather than face me. There's something honest about real fear that strips away every performance. I close the distance slowly. She cannot look away, even if she desperately wants to. You were following him. Her lips part. A hesitation, brief but damning, passes across her expression. A pause just long enough for truth to show itself before she forces it down again. I don't know who you mean. The man who stepped into the restricted wing. Her pulse kicks against her throat, a tiny frantic flutter, but it's her eyes that betray her first, flickering toward the corridor, the lie she is still deciding whether to tell. Etienne Domingui. She inhales, too sharp and shallow, still deciding whether to tell the lie or flee. I give her no space for indecision. You're going to talk to me. I keep my voice even, a calm so precise it becomes its own kind of threat. Mortals always fear the quietest tones the most. Shouts give them something to push against, but calm strips them of excuses. She steps backward, knuckles whitening around the railing behind her. I can't talk about him. I'm not. Please, I just have to go. She tries to slip past me. She doesn't get far. Look at me. She flinches at the command. She tries not to obey, tries so desperately it borders on noble. But some part of her must know what I am, what I can do, what happened when kindred stops asking and starts insisting. I'm not here to punish you, and I'm not here for you. I step closer, leaning one hand against the railing beside her head, sealing off the route she had been quietly angling towards. The chandelier's light catches the edge of her scarf, pink silk trembling like a fresh wound, and the reflection plays across her cheeks in soft, frantic colors. Her eyes shine with a thin glaze of tears she fights to contain. You help, you walk away untouched. You lie to me. If you force me to pull the truth out of you, then whatever threats Etienne whispered into your ear will feel like nursery rhymes compared to what I can do. The fear that flashes across her face is clean and immediate, and strips her down to the truth. Her voice, when it finally breaks free, is nothing more than a cracking whisper. What do you want to know? And just like that, she believes me. Where are you supposed to meet him? I let the silence stretch between us until it becomes almost unbearable, until the tremor in her breath begins to fracture the composure she pretends she still has. Hello. Where is he expecting you? The roof. He told me to meet him there, where no one would see us, where no one could overhear. Even in treachery, Etienne still wants the sky to witness him. What is he to you? Tell me exactly what you are to Etienne. I serve him. She forces out the first answer too fast. I tilt my head with quiet pressure, enough to dismantle weak deception. Try again. Her mouth opens and closes again, a frightened, shivering motion. I'm bound to him. He gives me what I need. Oh, Christ. She flinches, and this time she doesn't even try to deny it. I wait. The blood. Yep. There we go. Of course. It was written in every gesture she made. You're his ghoul. She presses her back harder against the railing, as though the pressure might steady her. She knows I expected the answer long before she spoke it. Etienne brought a blood-bound mortal into his escape route, someone who would follow him even into the jaws of betrayal. Why is he running? I don't soften my voice this time. Now tell me why he's running. What happened in Berlin? Her entire body reacts before her voice does. Berlin. The one truth Daubigny should have kept locked behind his teeth. He said the Camarilla were liars, that he was done serving tyrants. She looks up at me then, resigned, as if speaking the word strips away whatever illusion she once clung to. He said the anarchs were the only ones who understood him, that they were the ones who cared about his work, the case. He said he was choosing them. There it is. Etienne didn't simply run from the ivory tower. He chose to stand against it. That's how to do with it. That's all I need to know. The words settle between us with a weight she isn't prepared for. She holds herself like someone awaiting a verdict she already fears will end her, bracing for the moment she learns whether honesty was a mistake. Her expression crumples. Something wounded and apologetic bleeds into stark, wide-eyed fear. All vampires suffer from hunger, the relentless thirst for blood. Using disciplines and encountering certain situations increases your hunger. The higher it rises, the harder it becomes to restrain the beast within. When the hunger raises, the beast may take over. I let the silence stretch, just long enough for her to imagine every possible outcome. I gotta rewrite her memory, I think, although that's... well... thing is, finding a body would be a problem. Letting her go could mean that she winds up back with Etienne and complicating everything. And I don't really want to court the beast, even in a prologue, even though I'm fairly sure I'm supposed to. But I could probably kill her pretty quick, without too much in the way of noise. Hide her until the opera's over. After all, it's Etienne who's going to get the trouble. Fuck it. Calculations cascade through my mind, like I was just doing. Variables, risk, the breach, the Justicar's inevitable reprimand. But a problem has declared itself insoluble. My fingers close around the pink silk. The fabric is cheap, flimsy, but it'll be enough. Etienne, she begins, the name a final, pathetic assertion of her bond. She doesn't get to finish. Her feet leave the ground while I pin her to the wall and loop the shawl around her throat. Her hands fly up, clawing at my wrists, the pink noose cutting into her flesh. A wet, choking sound escapes her lips. Color floods her cheeks, a furious, blotchy red. Then, as her brain is starved of oxygen, the red begins to deepen, darkening towards purple. Her struggles become more frantic, a violent, useless thrashing. Her legs kick out, connecting with the wall with dull thuds. Her body arches in protest against the darkness closing in. The purple of her face gives way to a ghastly blue. Why did we not snap her neck? Seriously, all you need to do is know the right places to grab and snap, and it's done, and we're not having to do this. I'm just saying, what happened to simple, effective, and fast, because we don't have a lot of time, and choking out a human, like to death, takes a while. The whole point of nooses being made the way they are is that big old knot is what breaks your neck. Why do we have to strangle somebody? Neck breaking. That is the answer. Sorry, I get... You see how I get. Like, but come on. Seriously. This is just gratuitous now. I should have just, like, eaten her. At this point, take less time. A final full-body spasm racks her frame. Her bladder releases, and her hands drop. Yeah, that's the other reason! We don't want a smelly mess! We just want snap done! Stuff her in the back of the box, and go! Because Etienne is out there somewhere, heading for the roof. Can we remember this instead of, like, throttling a human to death? Is this so much fun for you? Ventru, don't play that! I'd say I'll stop, but I probably won't. Oop. Masquerade nudged. Now I face the real shape of the problem, the corpse. I have minutes, perhaps less, and Etienne is still running. Every second spent standing here is another second he gains, another corridor crossed, another locked door between us, another chance for him to vanish into the arteries of the opera house and disappear completely. I hide the body. My sweet the foyer, stripping the place down to function instead of beauty. Balconies, curtains, decorative partitions. Only then I notice it. A costume storage, half hidden behind one of the columns near the upper gallery. I hook my arms beneath hers and begin dragging her across the foyer. The doors are unlocked, and inside waits darkness and stale air. I shove the corpse behind a dense row of hanging costumes. Pink disappears beneath gold. It's not the perfect solution, but I have already wasted far too much time. On we go. The door Etienne vanished through waits at the edge of the corridor without any guard. By the time I step through, Thomas is already halfway down the next passage. I quicken my pace and finally close the distance between us. So, back already? Tail between your legs? His tone is light, almost playful, but the cruelty is a needle he's been saving for exactly this moment. I lift my chin, refusing him the smallest flinch. My intuition didn't fail me. I found what we needed. And what exactly is that supposed to mean? It means we're heading to the roof. I keep moving, pace steady, posture controlled. Thomas reads the posture the way other men read faces. The trick is to give him nothing to read. Let him believe the night shifts for me. Etienne has already vanished into the service hall, a narrow, unlit seam carved between slabs of gold-washed stone, a corridor meant for staff who were never meant to be seen. The perfect place for a coward to run. We move to follow, but before we can cross the threshold, a shape steps sharply into our path. The opera guard plants himself in front of the archway with the rigid, ceremonial stolidity of someone who has rehearsed the gesture but never expected to use it. His hand rises in a neat, practiced halt, palm outward, a gesture meant to command compliance through sheer confidence alone. His voice is polite, but polite in the way mortals often are when they have no fangs to bear, only rules and the hope that rules will be enough. I'm afraid this area is off limits. Please return to the public floors. He does not know the gravity of the moment he interrupts. He does not know he has placed himself between predators and their prey, and that the only thing keeping him alive is the masquerade stretched too thin tonight. Thomas steps forward, attempting to move past the guard, a shadow sliding with perfect intention. But the man holds his ground, immovable in the earnest, hopeless way of someone who believes duty will catch him if he falls. Thomas leans back, irritation sharpening the line of his jaw, casting his expression in that dangerous half-light where annoyance becomes something far less civil. You have no idea how little that matters to me. The guard's fingers twitch toward the small radio at his belt. It's an instinct, reaching for help that cannot possibly arrive fast enough. Let Thomas handle it, use an excuse. Compel isn't costing me much. I step forward before Thomas can decide this mortal is an inconvenience best solved with finality, placing myself between the guard and the danger he cannot comprehend. Officer, listen. We're not here to cause trouble. My voice moves cleanly through the hallway, a controlled thread of calm cutting through the leftover panic. It's gentle without warmth, authoritative without force. His eyes rise, and that is all I require. You're going to let us through. No sharpness, no threats, just a simple inevitability spoken aloud. The command sinks into him with visible effect. The stiffness drains from his shoulders, the breath leaves his chest in a short, subdued gasp, and whatever objection he meant to form dissolves before it can reach his... I'm assuming I was supposed to scroll down for that. He steps aside with the obedient clarity of someone who believes he has just remembered a rule he has always meant to follow. I move forward, slipping past the guard into the corridor. The chandelier's warmth dies behind us, replaced by the cold reach of the unlit passageway. Roof. The access door gives under my hand, and the roof opens in front of me. Wet metal, stone balustrades, the rake of wind sliding across the sheeted roof. Paris spills out beyond the edge in sheets of pale light. Etienne is already out in the open, a few steps from the drop, one hand resting on the slick stone of the balustrade. Rain runs down his sleeve, falling straight into the dark. He doesn't look startled to see me. He looks like someone who expected the moment to arrive exactly as it has. I take 3 steps onto the roof, enough to clear the doorway, enough to mark the distance between us. The surface under my shoes is uneven, roof plates, narrow gutters, the occasional raised seam waiting to trip the inattentive. Etienne notes every movement I make without turning his head. Then the access door slams behind me. Thomas explodes onto the roof, too fast for the surface he hasn't assessed. His boot skids on a raised ridge, and his balance lurches. He caroms sideways into me. Catch him. I catch him by the lapel of his coat before he stumbles past, and shove him back toward a stretch of level footing beside the balustrade, away from the sloped metal that would happily deposit him into a freefall. I don't save him for his sake. Our exchange with Etienne might simply require additional distraction. Thomas curses, already shifting his weight in search of steadier footing. Etienne still hasn't turned fully towards us. He lifts his hand from the coping and shifts a hop step along the narrow stone rim, adjusting the angle between us with deliberate care. In that same motion, he flicks open his fan, carved bone slats catching the rain. A toreador's affectation, unless one notices the razor-thin edge glinting along its tips. He keeps both of us in the corner of his eye, facing the city below. Rain traces a thin silver line down his cheek. He's setting the position, quietly, methodically, waiting to see which of us will move first. So, this is where it ends. His voice carries oddly well through the wind, calm. I take one step forward, fast enough to claim the space Thomas nearly ruined. Step away from the edge, Etienne. Recognition tugs at his mouth, humorless. I knew it would be you, Alice Littleton. Not him. His fingers tap against the stone, marking a rhythm only he can hear. Another half step, deliberate enough that I catch it immediately, adjusting the triangle between us again. Tell me, Alice, is Lucine's reward so precious that you'd sacrifice what's even more precious to you? The knowing of why? He snaps the fan once, a soft chick of wet fabric against the bone. For a split second, I feel him probing, slipping a cold fingertip against the lock of my thoughts, as if he had a claim to them. How dare he? The arrogance of it! That he knows me better than I know myself, that he can dangle the why like bait in front of my face, makes my grip on the stake tighten. A provocation, cheap and transparent, almost pitiable coming from him. Behind me, Thomas scoffs, sharp, impatient, old muddy disdain ground down into a single sound. Look at him. He thinks this is a conversation. Wind lashes across the roof, forcing Thomas to brace. We never ask the most important question. Why? Why am I here? Is it fate, or is it just my choice? An old kindred discovers existentialism. Saints preserve me. Now he's playing the ancient sage while he measures the ground beneath our feet. Pathetic. And dangerous. Make him quiet. I realize you love the sound of your own voice, but I don't care for it much, to be honest. How about a nice bout of silence? Don't waste your words. He's crazy. Neither of you ever cared about the why. You cared about the leash. Shorter, longer, embellished with promises or threats, but still a leash. Those who adore their leash so much don't ask why. They ask how high, or will I get the leftovers? Etienne d'Aubigny, step away from the edge and present yourself for custody. Now. There it is, the voice of the tower, unmoved by wind, rain, or context. Thomas takes a step forward, emboldened. You heard her. Now be a good boy and obey. Etienne turns his head just enough to glance at Thomas as one regards background noise, an annoyance carried by the wind. Then he looks back at me. You came to finish what she started, not for surrender. Shut up. Don't talk about us like you know anything. In fact, just stop talking. Etienne gives a little chuckle. The blades of his fan move lazily in the rain. The difference between you and I is thinner than the edge of a razor, Alice. One night, you'll come to know it. His eyes cut to Thomas. While you, Thomas, well. There's a pause as Thomas waits for him to continue, only to realize he has no intention to do so. His face clouds with fury, and Etienne chooses this moment to twist the knife. It must be exhausting, always barking on someone else's command and still never being the one Lucinde trusts. That does it. Thomas surges forward, raw, stupid momentum, polished shoes skidding on the wet metal. Exactly the opening Etienne designed. Here we go. I'm going to observe Etienne. Etienne is art incarnate. He dances with such grace his feet seem barely to touch the treacherous roof. He pivots, the fan flashes, the slats sing as they pass, metal glancing off their sharpened edges. He meets Thomas with something altogether different. Precision. He yields a sliver of space, turning on the ball of his foot, letting Thomas's force slide past him like the wind through a doorway. A blade-thin dodge, almost lazy, and somehow faster than it has any right to be. Yeah, that's called celerity, guys. Thomas follows through, pivots, forearm up for a clinch, Etienne slips under it like a dancer who knows the steps 3 beats ahead. Observe Thomas. What's he doing? Thomas moves with the drilling intent of someone who's done this more than once. A clean forward drive, close the distance before Etienne's speed catches up. A single slanted cut appears on Thomas's sleeve, clean as a tailor's touch. He slides across the wet copper, weights shifting where the metal buckles, shoe adjusting half a beat before it would betray him. Okay, and I go. Even though I would like nothing more than to let them have their scuffle on the wet copper, Thomas can't pin him alone. Etienne is too fast, and the rooftop gives him too many ways to slip the line. Much as it irritates me to admit it, there's a reason why there were 2 kindred sent to the opera tonight. I loosen my grip on the stake and slide it beneath my coat. This isn't a moment for it. I quickly close in, but instead of diving into the fray with reckless abandon like Thomas, I simply orbit around, running interference. Disturb Etienne's rhythm here, block the path of his footwork there, annoy him until he makes a mistake. We separate for a beat, then clash again. A tight exchange of grips, angles, leverage. Thomas drives him forward toward the stone balustrade, shoes biting for traction on a surface that has none to give. Etienne pushes off the coping, reverses the pressure, pulls Thomas sideways in an arc that would throw a lesser fighter into the void. We'll put him off balance. At the very last moment, I disrupt his move with a sharp tug to the elbow, and Thomas stumbles away from the edge. Rain hammers on the roof plates. Wind rakes across the edge of the dome. I stay out of the fight for a moment, rethinking our tactics while they draw their shapes on the battlefield. Thomas with brutal clarity, Etienne with elegant malice, both of them too competent to underestimate. The stake is back in my hand, steady and patient. I'll control the space for now. This fight isn't about strength, it's about terrain. So I take it. I shift left, then half step forward, closing the path Etienne keeps reaching for, the only stretch of the roof with enough flat metal to let him build speed. Box him in. Now every angle he tries pushes him toward the copper ornamentation and the steeper slant of the roof plates. No good footing there, no clean escape. He's boxed in, exactly where I want him. But he doesn't retreat. He dives in. His speed detonates. Before the wind can catch him, he's inside my reach. His fingers hook my wrist and twist. Joint as lever, leverage as pivot. My shoulder follows, then my hips. The whole line of my stance dragged across the metal, straight into Thomas's charge. Thomas barrels in, expecting a clear shot at Etienne. He finds me. 1 moment from being slammed into the balustrade by his own momentum. He stops short, shoes screaming on the gutter. And Etienne is already gone. Not far, just a slip of distance reclaimed. Enough to reset. Enough to reclaim the rooftop for 1 more second. And he's no longer boxed in. Fuck. Etienne's next move is all muscle and no art. A straight, ugly lunge that tells me he's run out of anything cleaner. He slams a hand against the cold bronze flank of Apollo's form, fingers scraping over rain-slick, weathered surface. Even his elegance falters under the god's looming silhouette. In I go. I grab the stake and move. I cut across the roof in a straight line, one even Etienne can't misread. He turns, too slow, still trying to finish what he started with Thomas. The stake is already in my hand. Point forward, arm tight, heart lying clear. I drive it in. Etienne's hand is there in an instant, snapping up through the rain like a steel trap. His fingers clamp around my wrist, the impact jarring all the way to my shoulder. The stake stops a hair above his sternum, close enough that I feel the rise of his chest against the point. For a moment, neither of us moves. We're locked in a cramped, graceless knot of limbs, shoes scraping for purchase on wet metal. His grip tightens. The storm howls around us, rattling the stone, tugging at our coats, trying to peel us off the roof like loose shingles. In it goes. He pushes. I push harder. The stake trembles between us, its point hovering over his heart by the width of a fingernail. He's stronger up close than he looks. Desperate strength running on leftover will, leftover spite. I shift my weight down, knees bent, feet solid on the ground. Etienne feels it. His leverage slips. I pull my wrist in tight, close to my chest, then twist. A sharp turn through the hips, not the feet. His grip can't follow the angle. It rips loose in a rough slide of fingers and rain. The line opens. That's all I need. Yes, I am trying to drive the stake in, but this is all you're giving me to click, and then that's all you say. So I get that we're trying to drive some engagement here, but this isn't engagement. I drive the stake forward in the same movement. Short, brutal, unstoppable. The stake plunges home with a wet, final sound. Time drips, slow, viscous. Paris dims around us, rain on copper softening to a buzz. The stake holds him where he fell, the fury that drove him gone out all at once, and for a moment, nothing on the roof moves. The traitor is down, and that was the one purpose Thomas and I held in common. I feel him straighten at my shoulder, and when his attention slides from the body to me, I already know what it carries. Two apex predators, eyes chained to one another's. Neither will stand down. Oh, fuck. This is why I hate the Camarilla! Only one of us will earn Lucien's favor. Whoever places Etienne at her feet wins. The other goes home with nothing. Simple math. The stakes are clear. The course of action is not. I know Thomas will move first. He knows I'll answer with brutal precision. One strike, ending it. But he and I, however much I loathe to admit it, are evenly matched. It's the turning on each other thing. They could bring him in together and make themselves look like a great team because they are a great team. They have all angles covered, more or less, but instead, they're gonna backstab each other for scraps. That's all I'm saying. Unless one of us finds an upper hand, we'll be exchanging blows until dawn fries us both to a crisp. Should I surprise him and strike now? Or why abandon methods that are tried and true? Not getting too close to the beast, I'll go first. There's no time to trade blows. I need a way to win now. I allow Thomas to control the battlefield as it suits me, bringing us closer and closer to the edge of the rooftop. Perhaps he has a similar idea to mine, or perhaps his judgment is clouded by hate and ambition. It matters not. A feigned defeat, that always makes him smug. Once close enough, I take a few steps back, letting him believe his harrying tactics have worked. A flash sparks in his eyes, and he lunges at me with the intention of pushing me off the roof. In return, I widen my stance, anchoring myself into the stone, then drop low, abruptly. The look on Thomas's face as he pitches over my shoulder is priceless, permanently etched into memory. He falls from the rooftop with nary a sound, just a silent whoosh of the air and a wave of fury. Unfortunately, Thomas is not so easily destroyed. All I've bought myself is time. I release the stone from under my command and pick up Etienne, careful not to accidentally jostle the stake and set him free. He paints a pathetic picture, paralyzed and thoroughly soaked by the pouring rain. It's almost enough for me to pity him. Almost. All that is left now is to deliver him to Lucinda and receive the reward I very much deserve. I let myself savor it. Not the fight, not Thomas face down in the rain, but the moment she sees what I have brought her. Finally, a good night. Return to the ministry. High on the emotions simmering beneath my skin, I barely remember the journey between the opera and my destination. All I know is that I blinked and now stand before the door to Salle la Loge. The room of the clock? Okay. And I am ready for whatever may come. Inside I go. Etienne's silken collar is smooth in my clenched fist. His paralyzed body drags heavy. Less his frame than the weight of my accomplishment. The heavy double door opens soundlessly. The guards as silent as their hinges. I can almost taste victory. I have already pictured the exact angle of her nod. Lucinda, whose minuscule stature is directly contradictory to her personality and power, stands still, pensively regarding the statue of France above the unlit fireplace, as if she's conducting a silent judgment over the lifeless figure. Watching her feels voyeuristic, blasphemous almost. To interrupt would be obscene. Not that it would be an easy task, as when behind me the door thuds open and Thomas barges through, fury thick around him. Lucine doesn't flinch and makes no move to acknowledge our presence. 3 Archons, Dr. Morgan, Tamamo, and one, slip into the chamber in the wake of commotion, drawn by the noise he caused, or perhaps by simple professional instinct. Thomas straightens immediately. Juan's eyes move from Etienne's paralyzed body to me, then back again. Clean work. His hand lands on my shoulder as he passes behind me. This is as close to warmth as one should expect from an Archon, and to my surprise I feel the corners of my mouth twitch upward before I smooth the expression away. Dominique, a mess from start to finish. Good that you've handled it, Alice. Tamamo pauses near the fan Etienne had carried in his pocket, picking it up between 2 delicate fingers. Artistry in death. His fans were always sharper than his tongue. A shame he couldn't parry this particular thrust. She folds the fan with a soft click and tucks it into the folds of her kimono, a souvenir for private collection. Thomas, bristling with unspent aggression, takes a step forward. He put up a fight, more than expected, perhaps. Before Thomas can take any more action, I approach Lucinde and, with little consideration, deposit Etienne at her feet. His body crumples onto the floor, eyes staring, unmoving, at the opulent ceiling. I'll be direct. Good evening, Justicar. We return victorious with the promised bounty. A tick of the clock passes. Then another. Her eyes cut to the body on the floor, then to the fuming Thomas, before finally meeting mine. Something in that stillness makes my back tighten on instinct, and even Thomas, usually all posture and puff, shrinks a fraction under her gaze. Victorious, you say? Perhaps we have different definitions of the word. To me, unnecessary attention is not victory. I recognize that her hand lifts. Spare me. There's nothing to say. The conversation is finished. Lucinde lowers her gaze to Etienne, the brief nod that follows carrying more command than any spoken order. Thomas reacts first, eager precision instead of anger, trying very hard to steer the moment back toward success. Without a word, he removes the stake from Etienne's chest, careful and controlled. And before Etienne can do something rash and idiotic, Lucinde's high-heeled foot lands on his chest like a manacle. She regards him with the same interest and intensity somebody might look at a moth, pinned to a picture frame with its wings still fluttering. Etienne Dominique, by the power vested in me by the Ivory Tower, I hereby accuse you of high treason, squandering official resources, and sedition. Are you aware of your sins? Choices, you mean? His voice lands softer than I expect, as if he were speaking to someone he once trusted. Something shifts in the room the moment he looks up at her, a small, sharp tightening in the air, like 2 magnets forced too close. I've seen her pass judgment on dozens of kindred, but this is the first time her stillness feels sharpened. The silence between them is wrong. Not hierarchy. Something older. 2 people with unfinished history. Something neither of them cares to articulate in front of witnesses. I see. Then reasoning would be a waste of time. No change in her tone, but she does break eye contact first. I expect her to deal with him the final death there and then. But Lucinde surprises me, as she often does. She removes her foot from Etienne's throat and motions for him to get up. Wait a minute. Wasn't it on his chest before? And anyway. And motions for him to get up, which he does, warily and stiffly. We will speak in my office. Speak. Don't insult me, Lucinde. I know well there's no conversing with you. Bitterness, like hurt hopes. I find myself caught between appalled at his tone and words, and surprised by the pure resignation visible in his slouched shoulders and downturned mouth. To be frank, I know more of Etienne than I know Etienne. His reputation is resilience, not audacity. And yet he is just beginning. For all your talk of modernity, Lucinde, you're the most rigid creature I've ever known. His voice, calm as it is, vibrates with a tone as sharp as his words. Well, allow me to enlighten you then. The Anarchs are right. If we as a species stay as stubbornly set in the past as our beloved ivory tower wants us to stay, we'll go extinct. And she doesn't speak. My eyes dart between the passionate Etienne and impassive Lucinda. Why is she still allowing him to talk? The time I spent in Berlin opened my eyes to the truth. We need to change and adapt to survive, just like any other species. And since the Anarchs are the only ones doing just that, they're our sole chance in these dark nights of unimaginable terrors that give pause even to us. That was quite a monologue, Etienne. Are you done? Her words are flat, tinged with boredom. Her face and posture stay dispassionate. The atmosphere in the room could be cut with a blade. A shadow of sadness passes over Etienne's face. When he speaks, there's less bite to his words, and even a hint of plea. We change or we die, and you can't stand hearing that, least of all from me. There, he says me like it's a specific memory, a place in time. Look at Etienne. Etienne's eyes are both empty and full of feeling. Grief, resignation, serenity, all there at once. I'm certain Lucinda sees it too. Lucinda's expression doesn't change, but something in the room tightens like a vice. Her glacial eyes flash with something much more primal and older than anger. Whatever Etienne is to her, he is something. I have served her for 35 years and never once made her go that still. I glance at Thomas. He's already looking at me. We both have the same questions written in our gaze. What the hell is happening? And the Archons? I look to the Archons for some sign that this exchange makes sense to someone besides Lucinda and Etienne. Juan's easy posture has gone still against the stone column. Tamamo's face remains serenely unreadable, and Dr. Morgan's attention never leaves Lucinda for even a second. Moving on. The conversation continues through a few beats of silence before becoming verbal again. I can't help but feel like they've skipped a couple of lines in this play of theirs. You had a choice. So did you. She scoffs. He shakes his head. When he keeps going, his voice is quieter than before, almost intimate. You sent me to Berlin to test me. Don't dress it as faith. Now you'll do for me what you did for Diron's predecessor. Tidy. Move on. Lucinda doesn't respond to that. Why did you take me, Lucinda? I have watched her answer harder questions in front of larger rooms. I have never watched her answer this one. Etienne waits, and so do I, against my better judgment. Then he turns his head to me. I feel the inside of my own skull turn into a room someone just walked into without knocking. That particular pressure behind the eyes, that unwelcome attention sitting where attention should not be allowed. I know this trick. I know its name. He is using it on me. The bastard is reading me. I try to throw out mental walls, but my own thoughts turn against me. He sees my ambition, a carefully tended fire, and the smaller, hungrier thing it was built to cover. Both feel like fuel for his invasion. Etienne sees it instantly. Worse, Lucinda sees that he saw it. You could drag the moon from the sky and lay it at her feet, and it still would not be enough. The air swooshes, and a thin cut appears on Etienne's cheek. The trickle of blood leaves behind only a faint trace across his skin. He turns back to her, but does not press her. He lets her stand in the silence she made for one more beat. Lucinda's hand moves again, a blur of white silk. Another line opens across his chest, this one deeper. The fabric of his expensive suit parts like a stage curtain. Again, a gash appears on his forearm, tearing through sleeve and skin. To my surprise, clots of vitae, dark and viscous, pull themselves from the wound and plop onto the polished floor. His shoulder goes slack. He's not paralyzed by the stake anymore. He is paralyzed by her. He stands there, being unmade inch by inch, a sculpture being systematically defaced by its creator. And she does not stop. The hand underneath is not the hand I know. I have seen Lucien's hands before. Steady, pale, precise. These are something else. The fingers have edges where fingers should not have edges, each one tapered to a line so fine it catches the chandelier light like a blade would. She came into this room with her hands already prepared. This was not impulse. She sharpened herself for him before the evening began. The hand finds him before her grip does. 4 lines down his face, through the cheekbone, through the jaw, through the mouth, then the chest, then his arms, the ones that should not be moving but somehow are, half instinct, half memory. Each cut is fast. Each one opens him to the bone. She is not killing him with these. She is marking him. Do you recognize it, Etienne? The hand entrusted with destroying monsters too dangerous to remain within our history? Look at it carefully. I would have you understand exactly what you became. Lucien steps closer. Her hand closes on his throat. She wants the bone under her fingers. She wants to feel it give. You used to like the rain. I never told anyone. Etienne's skin parts under her grip all at once. Her fingers find the spine. His head comes off in her hands. The force of the tear sends what remained inside him across Lucinda in fine dark droplets. They scatter over her sleeve, across her cheekbone, along the line of her jaw. The body falls on the hardwood floor, hollow thud beside it. The head she keeps for 2 seconds longer than she should, looking at it. Then she drops that too. Nobody moves. She is at peace again, and that is the most disturbing thing in the room. Why? We captured him in one piece, and Lucinda extracted nothing. The guards shuffle forward to dispose of the body, which has already started rapidly turning to ash. No intel. No leverage. I care for theatrics as much as anybody, but who was this show even for? Without looking at us, Lucinda walks past the guards, past the Archons, past Thomas, past me, toward the door of her office. Thomas and I exchange a glance. Neither of us says what we are thinking. In I go, I guess. All of this is prologue. We're well past an hour and this is still prologue. Oh my god. Well, of course, it's vampire. They do never shut up. Lucien's office is decorated with exquisite taste, and this is the opposite of inviting. Everything is arranged with a precision that leaves no room for comfort. In Paris, no one stands above Lucinda. The cuff is still dark with him. The line of her jaw still carries a smudge she has not wiped, or has wiped and missed. One glove, the white one, is gone. The hands underneath have not been clean in centuries. No one will mention it. She rounds the heavy desk and ensconces herself in the luxurious chair. Thomas and I remain standing on the Persian rug, positioned exactly where she wants us. She brings her hands together, fingertips touching, and regards us coldly. I cannot stand any straighter. I fervently wish I could. It is a shame we've all been subjected to ramblings of a disturbed man tonight. Both Thomas and I know an order when we see one. I'm keeping my mouth shut. Words of curiosity fight to claw their way out of my throat, but I keep them to myself. Not the time, not the place. But I do so very much wish we had at least gathered what intelligence he possessed. Now, tell me, did he say anything about Berlin at the opera? Thomas and I exchange a glance. We hadn't exactly had the time to chat with our Mark. I see. She leans back slightly, not relaxing, just shifting into the briefing mode. We have been receiving some troubling news from Berlin for quite some time. When Prince Wolf fell, the city fractured. Several anarch gangs filled the vacuum, none disciplined enough to establish lasting rule. Now, a leader of one of them, by the name of Danielle Durand, has rather suddenly risen to power and proclaimed herself a baron. As you might imagine, her uniting a good half of Berlin under her banner poses a dangerous precedent for us. I will wait for her to finish. She is in a mood Rude. Our intelligence suggests there is still some strong opposition in the city, refusing to bend the knee to her, consisting mainly of the remaining gangs. However, the notion that there might exist united anarch here in Europe needs to be eradicated swiftly, decisively, and once and for all. She pauses, waiting expectantly for our nods. Satisfied, she continues. Etienne was... She recovers before anyone but me would notice. Sent to observe and undermine. While his early reports provided, indeed, rather invaluable information, for reasons unknown, and no doubt insane, later on he entered into alliance with the self-proclaimed Baron herself. The phrasing is careful. She is shaping something she wants us to repeat. His execution was an appropriate punishment. It did not solve the problem, however. Berlin cannot be allowed to unite. The chaos in the city and its never-ending shifts suit us almost as much as if we reclaimed Berlin for ourselves. It sends the correct message. The anarch movement is dangerous even to those who claim to profit from it. Only the ivory tower brings safety and peace. I'm still going to keep my mouth shut until she tells me to say something. There's no need to verbally agree, nor does she expect it. Her words carry the obvious truth. Silence falls in the room, interrupted by the soft, muffled noise of Paris at night seeping in through the high windows. Lucinda rests her chin upon her steepled fingers, regarding both of us with inquisitive eyes, but a carefully blank face. In your personal opinion, how should Berlin be handled, and Danielle Diron in particular? The question hangs in the air. The echo of what we all just witnessed hangs with it. I see Etienne's last seconds again, her hand at her side, bare, the look he gave me before he turned his head back to her. Enough ambiguity to make me pause. Thomas moves before I can shape my answer, stepping into the space I've left unguarded. It's less than a few seconds, but hesitation never needs more. Thomas moves before I can shape my answer. His shoulders snap taut, stepping into the space I've left unguarded, which I think he said in the last line, but it's a demo, whatever. Force. Berlin needs force, not subtlety. Diron most of all. The moment Lucinda does not interrupt him. She watches. Not him. Me. Her gaze settles on me with that silent, meticulous awareness she has, the kind that keeps track of who has held back too long and who hesitated. Alice? Hesitation has a price, and she is still weighing it. I force my mind back to the question. Diron. Berlin. I will speak plainly. The hesitation is gone by the time I speak. I don't bother softening the answer. Clarity is safer than caution. Here, now, with Lucinda watching. If Berlin unites, it becomes untouchable. If it fractures, we own every piece that falls. Thomas shoots me a look, offended by the bluntness or by the confidence. Either suits him. The anarchs mistake volatility for strength. It's a pressure point. Visible, exposed, easy to exploit. We don't attack the whole center. We make the center irrelevant. Push the right doubts, the right contradictions. Let her alliances rot from the insecurities of her very allies. And when the fractures spread, we step in as the only stable alternative. Not conquerors. I look at Thomas with an unconcealed expression of triumph, but an inevitability. Thomas reacts. He steps forward too quickly. This is oversimplified. Berlin isn't a puzzle box you open with semantics. The stumble is small, yet Lucinda's eyes register it. This is my moment. Naturally, you think it's a puzzle box you smash to pieces instead of exercising a drop of patience. One would hope that with age, such childish behavior would have been beaten out of you. He grits his teeth in a valiant attempt at ignoring me, then pushes on, trying to recover momentum. Force is clarity. Violence is language. Diron's people don't follow whispers. They follow strength. He looks to Lucinda, hoping for something from her. A nod, a flicker, anything. I can see the pressure building under his skin. He pivots toward me, but looks straight at Lucinda. Her plan sounds doable, sure, but it depends on variables we can't rely on. We need outcomes, not theories. The argument falls flat. I know he feels it. Lucinda does too. I don't bother hiding the slight curve at the corner of my mouth. I will discredit him. And I suppose you can guarantee a solid outcome. I cannot with my mere theory. I would call you optimistic, but that seems insulting to the utter naivety you're displaying. The words hit him harder than any critique Lucinda could have given him. His eyes flare, first with humiliation, then with something beyond fury. He lunges, telegraphed by every ounce of wounded pride in his body. I don't step away. The blow never reaches me. Enough! Her voice reverberates throughout the room, and all the crystals in the chandelier, the glass in the window panes, even the numerous light bulbs vibrate along with it. Just that one word. Amplified by nothing but the sheer force of authority, so absolute it swallows the room whole. Thomas retreats a half step, as if physically pulled back by the gravity of her voice. Shame and rage fight on his face. Neither wins cleanly. You both make adequate points. It isn't praise. Her gaze moves between us, slow and precise, weighing whatever she's written down in that immaculate ledger inside her mind. Very well. Thomas. Cold, bitter disappointment bursts in my throat, and I fight a grimace until she continues. You will remain in Paris. The choked sound of his ambition collapsing in on itself is music to my ears. Lucinda offers no comfort, no explanation. She moves on. Alice, you will travel to Berlin. Prevent the city from uniting under Danielle Dijon. Use whatever methods you deem effective, so long as they serve the tower. Keeping my face perfectly blank, I squash down the giddiness bubbling in my chest. I will keep it short. Understood, Justicar. Lucien pauses, observing me thoughtfully with those unblinking eyes. Provided you succeed in a timely manner, I shall consider bestowing upon you the title of my Archon. The room tenses. Or maybe it's just Thomas. Her? You choose her over me? The mere fact that you need to ask is enough of an answer. He stares at her, fist trembling, jaw clenched hard enough to shatter his teeth. For a moment, I have the gleeful thought that he's going to lunge at Lucinda, or perhaps stomp off and be put in his place. But alas, he manages to keep himself in check. Lucinda regards him calmly before finally turning her attention back to me. I feel myself sway forward, eagerly, and a ghost of a smile crosses her face. You shall depart at once. Yes, Justicar. One last thing before you go. In one elegant motion, she takes the signet ring off her finger, placing it gently in my outstretched palm. There's a streak of Etienne's vitae along the band. She has not wiped it off. Beside me, Thomas's teeth audibly crack from how hard he's grinding them. This ring is a red mandate, proof to any and all Camarilla that you are acting under my patronage and as an extension of my authority. Be as I am with my enemies, Alice. The ring is small and heavier than it should be. It will fit perfectly on my finger, not because it was made for me, because I made myself for it. Every decade of service, every assignment completed without question, every time I chose the tower over my own instinct, all of it led here. I can't wait to slip it on, but such eagerness would surely be deemed distasteful. Save it for the right moment. I close my fingers around the ring. Not yet. Letting Lucinda, letting Thomas see me reach for it would tell them too much. The ring goes into my pocket, where its weight settles against my hip like a promise. It won't extend to the Anarch. Dealing with them is a part of your quest. You may go. Thomas will stay a little longer. I'll cover with play. Naturally. I'll trust he'll make good use of your time. The line is soft, almost diplomatic, and Thomas reacts as if I've slipped a blade under his ribs. But Lucinda turns her head a fraction. Do not test my patience. She turns back to Thomas, ignoring me fully. Her dismissal freezes me to the core. I stiffly nod once more and turn around to leave. But before I close the door behind me, I chance one more glance at her. Her eyes are slightly thawed, looking straight at Thomas. I can't help but feel the bitter pang of jealousy. He's done nothing to deserve such grace. The cabin stills when I step inside. Dear gods, are we on a private plane? A compact, pressurized space wrapped in leather, steel, and dim light, pared down to its functionality. Nothing warm enough to call welcome. The engines are already running at idle. I can feel them more than hear them, a low mechanical pulse running through the floor, the unmistakable sign the aircraft is awake, but waiting. Before I step further, movement catches the corner of my eye. There you are. Berlin, huh? You nearly boarded without saying goodbye. Relief flashes across Juan's face when he sees me. Something in my shoulders loosens before I can stop it. I wasn't aware I owed you one. You don't. I still wanted it. And I'm glad I caught you before takeoff. You sound nervous. Berlin is not Paris. The moment Lucien's name enters a room there, everybody starts calculating how much blood may follow. Is that your version of encouragement? You were never sent because it would be easy. This mission matters more than you think. Lucien doesn't send future Archons for errands, and she certainly doesn't keep them this close until they matter to her. Alice, admiration is useful. Obsession is not. Juan noticed, of course. He notices everything. You sound like you're giving me advice. Thomas's fixation on proving himself to her already made him reckless. I'd rather not watch history repeat itself with somebody smarter. I expect you back beside us soon enough. Behind him, the door seals shut with a hydraulic lock and cuts off the outside noise. What remains is the low hum of turbines, the distant whir of ventilation, and the faint beeps of pre-flight systems cycling through their checks. I've heard about Lucien's archives, but it's the first time I'm meeting one in person. It is harder to be in a room with one than the rumors prepared me for. And they say we're the monsters. Ahead, the living archive sits in one of the forward seats. She isn't strapped in. Strapped in is even the wrong word. She doesn't look secured so much as installed. Her back doesn't touch the seat. Her posture holds itself, hands folded neatly in her lap. The white band across her eyes catches a sliver of cabin light and reflects it without texture, without life. She speaks before I take another step. Ms. Littleton. Calm. She turns her head towards me by a few precise degrees. The blindfold doesn't shift, but I feel the weight of her attention all the same. Your gait is distinctive. A slight shift under my feet tells me the jet has begun taxiing. The engine's hum deepens. Yeah. You can identify operatives by that alone? That borders on invasive, and it sounds like charlatanism. Her chin lifts by a fraction, the shift of a device adjusting focus. Honestly, I would have given her more respect for that, but there didn't seem to be an option for that. Why is a Fentru being rude to the sum of all knowledge? What's that about? Stride length, limb symmetry, habitual microcorrections, and residual tension patterns in the shoulders. Like she's answering my irritation with pure, indifferent analysis. Your movement profile belongs to a narrow behavioral class. Recognition requires no effort. Please have a seat. Her tone is procedural. My spine goes rigid before I can stop it. I take the seat opposite her. A question forms on my lips, but she continues, unblinking behind the band. Lady Justicar Lucinde would not deploy an operative to Berlin whose behavioral metrics were unknown. Your patterns were documented months ago. Documented? Months ago? My behavioral metrics? I will ask directly. You've analyzed me? Your movements, tone ratios, stress responses, and micro delays. Standard procedure. Standard procedure. False neural vocal modulations, predictable ego spikes when confronted by authority. The file supplies what I cannot see myself. The left hand twitch pressed when attention is directed at you, the fractional narrowing the eyes when processing threat. I get it. Outside, the engines rise in pitch. The jet pushes harder up through the night. Lady Justicar Lucinde expects precision, from you as well. The jet pitches slightly as the nose lifts higher, the engine settling into a smooth, unbroken drone. I can use this time to question the living archive further, or to sort through what she's already said. And, well, I would actually love to run through all the questions. It has been a long, long, long week. And hot. Very, very freaking hot. So I'm going to leave it there. I think we've got enough of a taste. There are a couple of places where I hope the demo improves. Like, I'm sorry, I think Aventru would probably be a little bit more polite to a living archive! From what I remember about the Ventru, I'm just saying. I mean, I seem to recall they were a house once? No, that's a different one. Anyway, point is, they tend to like the information. They want to know the things. And you do not be rude at those who have all the knows. And, a couple of places where the couple of places where editorial work is needed, but that's everybody does that. I'm not blaming that until it turns up in the final product. And I mean, they can't really blame like editors and publishers because sometimes editors get it all wrong and leave things in they shouldn't. Anyway, yeah, no. As you can probably imagine, I'm liking this whole hell of a lot better than I would the Bloodlines 2. Not that I could play it anyway because first person thing, but from what I understand, a lot of it is like abuse of celerity mostly, and this is the intrigues and mind bending. What the fuck are we even doing? Of the Camarilla courts. It's little games, mind games, political games, social games. They managed to get that pretty well in something that has to have a limited, broad perhaps, but still limited ways of ending a conflict, which you really got to give it to them in that you didn't feel too railroaded most of the time. I'm still salty about this. I want to be polite to the archive. I want to be friends with the archive and make them tea. Because, like, they have information. I want it. So, yeah, that's staying on the wish list and staying particularly high. Of course, the one major problem for that is the release date, which is another vague one. Sometime this year. Just says 2026. Yeah. I don't know how long the demo is going to be up for. It could just be there for the next fest. I start to side-eye demos when they're released on a separate Steam page to the actual game. Though, Rook, actually, I should thank you, because indirectly you're the reason why I actually found this, because Steam updated me that this had a demo, so I went to the store page on my wishlist, and there was no demo. So then, the next day, Smeagol comes up to me with the link that I'm presuming you gave him, and said, "Hey, look, demo." And I was like, "There it is!" So, thanks for that. Anyway, this one is very much a choices matter sort of thing, as you've seen, and you might make very different choices than I did. So maybe give this demo a shot if the game looks like one you'll like. Sometimes the feel of playing a game can make or break your enjoyment, and it's not like my opinion is the be all and end all. Although I do tend to think I have pretty good taste, but that's just me. For those who like a text-free and digression-free review, that'll all be up on my Ko-fi page shortly. No paywall. I do it for the love of the games. I'd say maybe toss some people in my general direction if you like what I do. I like the company. And somebody already did that. Hi, thanks for the raid. Go ahead and like follow me on Twitch if you'd like to, because I think I'm still a few off from affiliate. I haven't checked, but I just like to actually be able to properly schedule things, especially on weeks with like Next Fest on them, which is a problem with Backlog Burrow on Sunday, incidentally. But anyway, going back to the half-established script, the review will have the embedded VOD, which will also be on YouTube, where it will live with everything else I've ever done in case you joined late or just fancy coming back to it later. There were some interesting WOD-related anecdotes early on before the raid happened, so there could be some cool stuff in there just in the stories. Like I was saying earlier, the Backlog Burrow is back. We're coming up on the Sunday, and I'm still not sure what actual game I want to bring out for that one. I'm still toying with the idea of Mask of the Rose, Fall in Love and My Beloved, all that. But I could also do Heaven Will Be Mine, which looks mega weird in the good way. I'm also tempted to just do demos on and off all day because I have about 70 of them sitting around, and I'm also probably going to be distracting myself from like 32-degree heat in England. I'm not going to whine about that. I'm not going to whine about that. I'm not going to whine about that. Anyway, it's probably going to depend on how I feel on the day because like I was saying, it's supposed to get even hotter. I might be too much of a puddle of goo to stream at all. So let's slap a big old "we'll see" on the schedule for Sunday. I'm also still working on the hyperfixation station where I showcase idle Zen type games that hit all my hyperfocus buttons. My working on how to do the video editing is progressing. I just need to do a couple of test runs and play enough of my hyperfixation games to actually have something to show. But I'm getting there. So hopefully that should be getting someplace by like mid-July, August at the latest. I don't know. As to the demo dive, on Monday, we will be looking for a puzzle game, I think. Specifically, The Artisan of Glimeth by Lunark Studios. It looks pretty and stained glossy and kind of fun. As always, though, that's subject to change depending on mood and what's giving me the dopamine on that particular day, because I have the thing. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I mean, half the time I'm getting people telling me that's the most ADHD coded thing I've ever heard, so I give up. That's how I do. Anyway, whatever I choose should hopefully be entertaining. So I hope to see you there, either on Sunday or back on Monday's demo dive. Until then, or until next, have a good one.